Now, therefore, I, Priscilla Makanyara Chigumba, the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, in terms of Section 110, subsection 3, do hereby declare that Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF party has received 2,350,711 votes out of 4,468,730 valid votes cast, which are more than half the number of valid votes cast in the presidential election. Therefore, Mnangagwa Emerson Dambudzo of ZANU-PF party, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe with effect from 26 August 2023.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. ZANU-PF and Emerson Mnangagwa have managed once again to steal the election. They have managed to rig the Zimbabwean elections. Everyone knows, I think by now, that the Zimbabweans elections were not fair. The Zimbabweans elections were not free. We know all the things that took place right there in Zimbabwe. We know that the citizens of Zimbabwe were threatened to vote for ZANU-PF because they were, at some polling stations, ZANU-PF was there with their tables, taking people's IDs and actually monitoring them and telling them that if they vote otherwise, they will know and they will track who voted for what party. We know that some polling stations closed early, some polling stations didn't open, some polling stations didn't have ballot papers. That's what happened right now in Zimbabwe. That's why right now people are so mad at what's happening right now, because ZANU-PF has literally managed to steal the election right in front of everyone's face, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing anyone can do about it. So I think, again, guys, it is crazy. It was crazy for people to think that the man who assumed power by staging a military coup against his predecessor was going to allow something like democratic processes to actually take him out of presidency. He was actually going to sit out and step aside and allow the Zimbabweans to have their voice and allow the Zimbabweans to say that they don't want him as the president. I think it was crazy to even think that. People know that Mnangagwa lost the elections. That's even what Chamisa is saying. People know that Mnangagwa lost elections. People know that ZANU-PF is not popular right now in Zimbabwe. And a majority of issues that are taking place right now in SADC, it is because of Zimbabwe. It is crazy how the SADC presidents are not saying anything when it comes to Zimbabwe. They don't care about the fact that we have this country right here in the middle, right here in Zimbabwe, that is run by illegitimate government, because you look at Zimbabwe. What's happening in Zimbabwe? It is crazy, because right now, if this decision stands, you have to understand that it is 5 more years under the apartheid regime of ZANU-PF. So the Zimbabweans, they don't have a choice right now. I feel like a lot of Zimbabweans right now, they don't have a choice but to leave Zimbabwe, to actually come to South Africa. I think this is what we as South Africans can expect. More Zimbabweans are going to come to South Africa. So if you are a South African, it's better to prepare yourself, because there's going to be such a high influx of immigrants that is going to come to South Africa, and there's nothing nobody can say about it. Because after all, guys, can you blame the citizens of Zimbabwe? These people have been fighting with oppressors, and now they are fighting with ZANU-PF. It's been decades that the ZANU-PF has actually stolen the voices and stolen elections after elections of the people of Zimbabwe. So I don't blame Zimbabweans for actually coming to South Africa to seek a better life. I think people of Zimbabwe are sick and tired of ZANU-PF. I think they are sick and tired of fighting, and it is so crazy to see South Africans speak from a position of privilege, saying that Zimbabweans must go home to fight, Zimbabweans must step up and everything. But you have to understand that maybe the Zimbabweans are also tired of actually fighting, because these guys, you have to understand that the Zimbabweans have been fighting since the colonizers, and now they are fighting the apartheid regime of ZANU-PF. These people have never actually been free. The Zimbabweans have never tasted freedom. And I think it is fair for people who never tasted freedom to actually go outside their country to seek a better life. If I was born in Zimbabwe, I don't care who says what, I was going to live in South Africa. I was going to come to South Africa and live in South Africa. There is no way I was going to allow a situation where I live under Zanu-Pf, there was no way I could actually allow that. So I think as South Africans, we need to understand and we need to acknowledge that what's happening in Zimbabwe, it is our fight also, especially the poor South Africans, because what's happening is that more Zimbabweans are going to come to South Africa, and guess what? The poor people of South Africans are the ones who are going to be affected by this. This is exactly why the politicians in South Africa, that's why they don't care about what's happening in Zimbabwe. This is why the presidents in SADC, they don't care about what's happening in Zimbabwe, because it does not affect them personally. It affects the poor people of South Africa. It affects the poor people of Botswana, of Malawi, of Botswana, and so on and so on. So this is the reason why all of this is happening. You can see, guys, no one is condemning Mnangagwa, no one is condemning Zanu-Pf. People are not saying anything. They continue as normal. I'm not going to be surprised when I see Ramaphosa actually rolling out a red carpet welcoming Mnangagwa at some time to come as a legitimate president. That's what these guys are doing. This is why the African Union, it is so useless, guys. This African Union, it is so useless. It does absolutely nothing for us. It does nothing for Africans. So this is exactly what has been happening. So guys, the leader of CCC, Nelson Chamisa, has also had his press conference where he declared himself the president of Zimbabwe. This guy believes that he is the president of Zimbabwe, but I don't know how is that going to work out, because you know that in Zimbabwe, whoever has the military on their side is the one who can actually control the country. So I don't know how is Chamisa going to preside over Zimbabwe when Emmerson Mnangagwa has already declared himself the president of Zimbabwe. So right now we are in a situation where we have two presidents in Zimbabwe. It is the craziest thing, I'm telling you. What's happening in Zimbabwe, guys, it is the craziest thing. Just imagine, guys, one country, two presidents, all of these two people, they say that they've won elections. They say that they've won elections. How insane is that? How insane is that? And the fact that the CCC, the Triple C, have agreed to go and contest the election with a party that staged a military coup to stay in power. It makes no sense. Zanu-Pf going to this election makes no sense, because Zanu-Pf is illegitimate, man. Mnangagwa is illegitimate. The guy assumed power by staging a military coup against Robert Mugabe. So how can we expect someone like that to magically believe in democratic processes? Man.
That we are rejecting the election as a sham, the result. The process itself, we disregard it, and it's in line with what the SADC observers have said. We reject this sham result and flawed process based on the disputed figures. We have our V11s. I've asked our teams to bring those V11s. I'm not so sure if they're here, so that you would see them. We've brought V11s from across the whole country, and those V11s are going to be the basis of our assertion. We have won this election. We are in the lead. We are even surprised why Mr. Mnangagwa has been declared, the leader, because he's not. From the V11s we have, we are ahead. But if you look at the V23, Mr. Mnangagwa mysteriously and miraculously then declares a 52%, which is not backed by facts. Even if you look at other candidates who have then been given votes, it's because it has been engineered elsewhere. It's iron data, doctor data, man-made data that is not reflecting the reality of what the people have said on the ground. As far as we are concerned, a credible election must be declared and honored. A legitimate government and a legitimate president for everyone must be put in place. And that we are rejecting.
And the craziest part is that this election will have to go to the courts, but while they are in the courts, Mnangagwa is still the president. So Zanu-Pf has actually successfully managed to frustrate the processes, man. They've managed to frustrate the processes. They know that if Chamisa takes them to court, it's going to take another 5 years to even come to the conclusion. And in the meantime, Mnangagwa will be running the country as the president of Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa will be running the country as the president of Zimbabwe, man. Guys, this is a mess, man. This is a mess, guys. This is a mess. Like, guys, if Zimbabwe gets right, a lot of problems, especially in South Africa, will be automatically solved, guys. The poor South Africans are complaining about the issue of immigrants, man. They are complaining about their safety, man. Some of these things that the immigrants are doing in South Africa, man, are crazy, man. Are crazy. That's why you see groups like Operation Dudula going out there demonizing all the foreigners in the country. So we have to accept that as long as things are like this in Zimbabwe, things are not going to change in South Africa. We have to accept that if we don't fight this right now, 5 years to come, more Zimbabweans are going to come to South Africa, man. More Zimbabweans are going to come to South Africa. Man, even the South Africans who don't want to look at who are not even paying attention to what's happening in Zimbabwe, they're gonna be forced to care about what's happening in Zimbabwe. The poor citizens of South Africa are gonna be forced to care about what's happening in Zimbabwe, man. Because everything that happens to Zimbabwe, it affects us directly. It affects South Africa directly, man. This is why South Africans also need to be out there speaking and raising their voices and making sure that the president understands that they are not happy about what's been happening in South Africa, because it can't be that on one hand South Africans are complaining about the issue of illegal immigrants, but at the other hand the president is not doing anything when Mnangagwa literally steals the elections in front of everyone else, and now Mnangagwa expects Botswana, Lesotho and all these other countries in the SADC region to take care of Zimbabweans while they are busy stealing the mineral resources of the country. Mnangagwa literally expects us South Africans to take care of Zimbabweans. That's what this guy wants. He doesn't care about Zimbabweans. He doesn't care about their needs. He doesn't care about the fact that these guys, they simply want to live in their own country, man. That is why I don't like the whole thing of demonizing foreigners, because I don't believe that the foreigners, if things were bad or if things were good in their country, they would come to South Africa. I don't believe that if things were better in Zimbabwe, the Zimbabweans would come to South Africa. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe these people come to South Africa because they are seeking for a better life, man. That's what I believe. And some of these people are sick and tired of living under an oppressive apartheid regime. They are sick and tired, man. They have never been free. They are sick and tired. It's so easy for us as South Africans to say that these guys must go home to fight and all of those things. But at the same time, we have to understand that these people have been oppressed all their lives, man. If you are a 35-year-old man right now in Zimbabwe, you never tasted freedom. A 60-year-old man right now in Zimbabwe, they never tasted freedom. The Zanu-Pf is running everything with an iron fist. Everything. They are doing everything like as they please. No one is holding anyone accountable. That's why every time when people talk about the African Union, they talk about SADC, man, I always laugh, man. I always laugh. Those guys, they don't care about the needs of the people, man. The South African president doesn't care about the fact that what's happening in Zimbabwe is going to affect the poor masses of South Africa. We know what's happening right there in Limpopo. You've heard the statistics. One of the hospital men, 75% of the women that are giving birth there are women who are coming from Zimbabwe. So the poor citizens of South Africans right now are forced to share hospital beds with people who come from outside of the country, because our president doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to say anything. So another person who came under fire recently is the Secretary-General of the ANC. The Secretary-General of the ANC lately has been tweeting, and he has been tweeting very recklessly, man. Fikile Mbalula has been tweeting very recklessly lately. This is why people are so mad at him right now. People are so mad at Fikile Mbalula right now, because he's been tweeting so recklessly. The Secretary-General of the ANC is out there celebrating the fact that Zanu-Pf allegedly won the elections in Zimbabwe. He is celebrating that. He is celebrating that. The Secretary-General of the ANC is celebrating that. Is this the reason why the ANC is not saying anything about what's happening in Zimbabwe? Is the ANC actually fantasizing with the whole idea of Zanu-Pf? Is the ANC going to relinquish power if they are kicked out in 2024? These are legitimate questions that people are asking. And when you see such tweets, especially coming from someone like Fikile Mbalula, who is an executive, then you get to then you ask yourself some of these questions, like, is the ANC exactly going to accept the 2024 elections if they were to be kicked out? You see, because if you read this tweet here, Christo said there are ample reports that the Zimbabwean elections were not free, transparent or fair, yet the ANC and particularly Fikile Mbalula supports ZANU-PF and celebrates Mnangagwa. Does Mbalula benefit in any way from ZANU-PF or Mnangagwa? And the Secretary-General of the ANC responded by saying, I support democracy. We need to support the democratic outcome and stop meddling in Zimbabweans affairs. So what he's saying basically is that South Africans must just look away and pretend like everything that is happening in Zimbabwe has nothing to do with us. The poor masses of South Africans has to look away and pretend like everything that's happening in Zimbabwe, it has nothing to do with us. It does not even affect us. This is the reason why I said politicians, they don't care about the fact that Mnangagwa stole the elections, because the consequences of that, it does not affect them personally. These people, they are not the ones who get to share the hospital beds with the foreigners. They are not the ones whose lives are in danger every day because of living amongst the illegal immigrants. They are not the ones who are dealing with these guys who are selling drugs to kids. They are not the ones who are living with these guys who have been accused of human trafficking and all sorts of things in South Africa. So every strain that South Africa is going to take, it has nothing to it does not affect them. You have to understand, Fikile Mbalula is tweeting from a position of hierarchy, the position of privilege. He knows that what's happening, it does not affect me, and it will never affect me in any way, shape or form. Because if I'm sick, I go to private hospitals. My children are probably outside in Europe, to school in Europe. So he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He wants South Africans to look away and pretend like everything that's happening in Zimbabwe does not affect us. He actually wants us to believe that what's happening in Zimbabwe, it is not our fight also. It is our fight also, guys. Whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. Stop this nonsense of hating immigrants out of nothing. Stop that nonsense. Stop hating Zimbabweans for nothing, man. At least try to understand that these guys are here to seek for a better life. And these guys, the guys like Fikile Mbalula and the ANC, these are the guys who are supposed to be out there, out loud, condemning everything that's happening in Zimbabwe. These are the guys who are supposed to be doing that for us. But they are telling the citizens of South Africa to look away and pretend like everything that is happening right now, it is not happening. That's what he's saying. And he says, I support democracy. What democracy, man? What democracy? How can you support democracy from a guy who staged a military coup to take power in Zimbabwe, man? There is no democracy there. Mnangagwa does not believe in democracy. That's why they are not even investigating the fact that people were threatened. That's why they are not investigating why some polling stations were closed. Some polling stations did not have ballot papers and all sorts of things. But the Secretary-General of the ANC is out here celebrating the fact that Zanu-Pf won the elections. What does this mean? That's what people are asking. What does this mean exactly? What does it mean? When Fikile Mbalula is out there celebrating this, what does it mean actually? Guys, we are on our own. We are on our own, guys. And he continues to say, by way of seeking to subvert the democratic outcomes, lift sanctions so that Zimbabwe economy can flourish and Zimbabweans can go and work in their country. So guys, maybe, okay guys, let's say that the West, they lift the sanctions there in Zimbabwe. Who is going to benefit actually? Who is going to benefit? How are Zimbabweans going to benefit if these sanctions are lifted? How are they going to benefit if their country is still run by ZANU-PF? How are Zimbabweans going to benefit from anything? How are they supposed to benefit if sanctions are lifted right there in Zimbabwe? How are they supposed to benefit? This is why I say these guys, they don't care. They don't care, man. Like South Africans, like guys, in South Africa, guys, you have to accept this now. You are going to share this country with Zimbabweans. You're going to have to share this country with Zimbabweans, whether you like it or not. These guys are coming to South Africa. They are coming to South Africa to seek for a better life. Whether you like it or not, they are coming to South Africa. The ruling party of South Africa is fine with everything that's happening in Zimbabwe. Which means right now, people can only get online and tweet and post and complain online. There's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do. Even us, we can get on these platforms and speak until our voices are man, there's nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do, guys. We just have to be careful of people like it, of organizations like organizations like Operation Dudula and Petrolic Alliance to some extent. With this whole notion of actually trying to demonize the foreigners in our country, we have to be careful of that. Because I believe that Operation Dudula now is going to be emboldened because they know that there will be more immigrants in the country. Because we know that the whole organization, it thrives on hate. It thrives on hate. So the more immigrants come to South Africa, the more organization grows. We are in a mess, guys. We are in a mess, and a lot of people are not happy actually about the Secretary-General of the ANC and what he has been tweeting exactly. They are not happy about that. In one of the tweets again, he says Zanu-Pf is supported by Zimbabweans. That is a fact. They pulled big rallies in that country. The only rallies were shown is a CCC. So Fikile Mbalula is telling us that Zimbabwe Zanu-Pf is popular. South Africans must shut their mouth. Zimbabweans love to live under this oppressive regime of Zanu-Pf. That's what the Secretary-General of the ANC is telling us. This is exactly why he's telling us. But the question is, why is he so happy that Zanu-Pf have stolen this election? Why is he so happy? Why is the Secretary-General of the ANC so happy about the fact that Zanu-Pf have stolen the election right there in Zimbabwe? Why is he so happy, guys? I don't understand. I don't understand. Why is he so happy? Why is the Secretary-General of the ANC so happy? Because I would like to know the ANC's position on what's happening right now in Zimbabwe. But I guess this is the ANC's position, because I don't think right now Fikile Mbalula he can say that he's tweeting on his personal capacity. I don't believe that. There's still that Fikile Mbalula right now, he cannot tweet from his personal capacity. He's the Secretary-General of the ANC. He has like 1 million followers on Twitter. Everything he says is official, man. So South Africa, we are on our own, guys. We are on our own. The Secretary-General of the ANC is celebrating everything that is happening right there in Zimbabwe. So guys, please tell me what you think about everything that has been happening in Zimbabwe. Drop those comments and please hit that like button. And the most important part, guys, please subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.